The knock came just after sunset, 3 sharp hits that made Clara Benton's stomach drop. When she opened the door, rain dripped from her father's coat. "You're alone, Clara," Harold said coldly. "No husband, no children. We're taking this house." Behind him, her brother Damon smirked, and their mother, Evelyn, clutched a box labeled master bedroom. They looked like vultures circling something still alive. Clara didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply stared at them, calm, steady, and reached for her phone. What happened next, none of them ever saw coming. Clara had grown up in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place where lawns were cut every Saturday, and everyone smiled without really looking. Her father, Harold, worked as a bank manager. He loved numbers, order, and control. Her mother, Evelyn, was an accountant obsessed with appearances, fresh flowers, matching pajamas, and perfect family photos for Christmas. Damon, 3 years older, was the golden child, the reason Harold bragged at barbecues. Clara was different, quieter, more thoughtful. She found joy in sketching website designs on her old laptop, creating worlds no one else could see. At 16, while Damon spent his summers in Myrtle Beach, Clara stacked shelves at Target, saving every paycheck in a coffee tin marked college fund. She imagined her parents would be proud. Every Sunday, they gathered for dinner. Roast chicken, green beans, and her father's lectures about success. One evening, Clara finally spoke up. "I want to study web design." Harold froze mid-bite. "That's not a real career," he said flatly. Evelyn chuckled. "Sweetheart, people like you end up freelancing forever. Study finance, something practical." Damon grinned. "Better hope Target needs a website." Their laughter filled the room, warm and cruel. Clara laughed too, pretending it didn't hurt, but under the table her hands shook. That night, she packed away her sketchbook and stared at the dim glow of her computer screen. She whispered to herself, "I'll prove them wrong someday." 2 years later, when Damon turned 18, their parents gave him a new Ford Fusion. On Clara's 18th birthday, Harold handed her a card with $50 inside. "Get yourself something useful," he said. She did. She bought a used textbook for her design class. That tiny act of defiance became the first brick in her new life. Those early years were brutal. Clara worked double shifts at a diner and studied late into the night. She came home smelling like fryer oil and opened her laptop until dawn. No one called. No one asked if she was eating. Except Grandma Lillian. Every Sunday, Lillian phoned from her cottage 2 towns over. "You've got your grandfather's patience," she said. "Don't let them shrink you, honey." In summer, while her parents vacationed with Damon in Cancun, Clara stayed with Grandma Lillian, gardening, painting fences, listening to stories about how she'd built her own house brick by brick. "Independence isn't loneliness," Lillian always said. "It's freedom." At 22, Clara graduated from State University, without family in the audience. She stood outside the registrar's office, holding her diploma in a plastic sleeve, smiling through tears. That same week, she landed her first job as a junior designer at a small digital agency downtown. The salary was modest, but it was hers. She mailed her parents a photo of her tiny desk and a note that read, "I got the job." They never replied. Years later, Clara would realize that was the moment she truly left home, not the night she moved out, but the day she stopped waiting for them to see her. Her father's pride always belonged to Damon. There was a framed photo of him shaking hands with a college dean, Harold's proof of legacy. When Clara called to share news of her promotion, Evelyn answered distractedly. "That's nice, dear. Damon just got into an MBA program." Her voice glowed with pride that Clara had never earned. Damon rarely called unless he needed favors, resumes, logo designs, quick help. She always helped anyway, hoping maybe he'd see her. But the distance between them grew, quiet and heavy, like dust no one bothered to clean. One Christmas, Harold poured wine and raised a glass. "To Damon, the one carrying the Benton legacy forward," he declared. Evelyn smiled, eyes shining. "You've always been the one," she whispered to Damon. They thought Clara didn't hear, but she did. Her room at home had become a storage closet, while Damon's remained a shrine, trophies and medals polished weekly. Clara laughed it off, but that night she lay awake, wondering if being forgotten could become permanent. Years passed and effort replaced affection. Clara sent gifts, helped with taxes, and even drove 3 hours once to fix her parents' Wi-Fi. Evelyn's only comment: Damon would have done it faster. At 27, Clara had stability, but no satisfaction. She still believed she could earn love through effort, until everything collapsed. Her agency went bankrupt overnight. One morning the doors were locked, phones silent. Her final paycheck bounced. Clara tried to stay calm, updating her portfolio, applying to every job listing. But weeks slipped by. Rent loomed, savings drained, and hope thinned like old fabric. The night before eviction, she sat on the floor surrounded by boxes, her laptop glowing with unpaid bills. 3 missed calls from her landlord blinked on her phone. Desperation swallowed her pride. She dialed home. "Dad," she whispered, "I lost my job. I need help, just a loan for rent." Harold sighed. "Actions have consequences, Clara. You chose a career with no future." "Please," she begged, "just $2,000. I'll pay it back." Evelyn's voice cut through, sharp. "We can't. We're paying for Damon's tuition. You need to learn responsibility." Then the line went dead. Clara stared at the phone until the screen dimmed. Rain started outside, soft, then harder. She drove to their house that night anyway, desperate. When Harold opened the door, only the porch light touched his face. "Dad, please," she whispered, "just for a few weeks."
"No," he said.
"You made your choices. Live with them." Evelyn appeared behind him, arms crossed. "This isn't a good time." The door closed. Rain soaked through Clara's coat as she stood shivering on the porch. For a long time, she didn't move. Then she turned and walked back to her car. That was the last night she called them family. The next week, Clara lived in her car behind a Walmart. The heater barely worked, so she wrapped herself in an old blanket and tried to sleep through the hum of delivery trucks. She showered at a gym using a free day pass and charged her phone at coffee shops. Each rejection email felt heavier than the last. Then one afternoon at Starbucks, she heard her name. "Clara?" She looked up. It was Carla Reed, an old friend from high school. "Are you okay?" Carla asked, eyes softening as she took in Clara's appearance. Clara tried to lie, but her voice broke. Tears came before words. Carla didn't press. "Come with me," she said simply. That night, Clara slept in Carla's spare bedroom. A real bed, clean sheets, the faint smell of coffee from the kitchen. It felt like heaven. The next morning, Carla made a few calls and arranged an interview at her boyfriend's small design studio. His name was David. He flipped through Clara's portfolio, his brow rising. "You've got an eye for detail," he said. "Start Monday." It wasn't glamorous, but it was enough. Clara worked long hours, skipped lunches, and accepted every project. 2 weeks in, David called her into his office. "You're good at this," he said with a smile. "Let's bump your pay." For the first time in months, she exhaled without guilt. Then the phone rang. "Is this Clara Benton?" a woman asked. "Your grandmother's neighbor, Lillian's in the hospital. It's serious." The world narrowed. Carla drove her 3 hours across state lines. Grandma Lillian looked fragile under the hospital lights. "You came," she whispered, smiling weakly. "I tried to call," Clara said, gripping her hand. "I know, sweetheart," Lillian murmured. "You always try." 3 days later, she pressed an envelope into Clara's hand. Inside, keys, papers. "The cottage is yours now." "Don't talk like that," Clara pleaded. "I built that home to protect what matters," Lillian whispered. "Now it's your turn." That night, Lillian passed away, her hand still in Clara's. At the reading of the will, Clara sat across from her parents and Damon. The lawyer unfolded the paper. "To my granddaughter, Clara Benton, I leave my cottage and my savings." Silence thickened the room. Harold's face turned red. "That house should be ours," he barked. The lawyer's tone stayed calm. "Mrs. Lillian's wishes are legally binding." Evelyn hissed. "She manipulated her. My own daughter. Clara met her gaze. You never visited her. I did. Damon muttered. You don't deserve it. Clara rose, slid the keys into her pocket and said, Grandma thought I did. Then she left. By sunset, Clara stood in front of the cottage, paint peeling, garden wild, windows clouded. It wasn't much, but it was hers. She unlocked the door and stepped inside, whispering, I finally have a home. The house smelled of lavender and dust. The floors creaked like an old song. She painted the walls, fixed the plumbing, planted roses in the yard, and turned the spare room into an office. By day, she worked remotely for David. By night, she freelanced for small local businesses, bakeries, bookstores, and motels that couldn't afford big agencies. Clara slept little, but her mornings smelled like coffee and peace. After a year, she registered her own studio, Horizon Creative. The name came from Lillian's favorite saying, Keep your eyes on the horizon, not the storm. Clients came through word of mouth. She didn't advertise. Her work spoke for itself. Every wall she repainted, every client she helped, it all reminded her she'd built something real. One Wednesday afternoon, a man named Ryan Cole walked into her office. He owned the bookstore downtown. I need a rebrand, he said, half smiling. His handshake was firm, his eyes honest. Clara designed his logo and website, but their meetings stretched into long dinners and laughter that lingered. Months turned to years. She wasn't looking for love, but it found her anyway. By 32, Horizon Creative had 3 employees and steady clients. Clara worked from the converted garage, while Ryan tended the garden. Every evening they ate under Grandma Lillian's oak tree. Her life wasn't flashy, but it was whole. Then one Thursday her phone buzzed. Damon. 5 years of silence ended with a text. Heard your business is doing great. We'd love to visit. Clara stared at it until the screen dimmed. Against her better judgment, she replied. Damon's cheerful voice filled the call.
Hey, sis.
Mom, Dad, and I were just thinking it's been too long. Maybe a weekend visit. Her pulse quickened. Fine, she said cautiously.
Saturday.
Just a visit. Ryan raised a brow when she told him. You sure that's a good idea? It's time I face them, she said softly. Saturday came wrapped in tension. Their car rolled down her gravel driveway. Harold stepped out first, smiling too wide. Evelyn carried store-bought pastries, and Damon wore sunglasses despite the clouds. They walked through the house like buyers inspecting a listing. You've done well, Evelyn said, tone sugar-sweet. For someone with no husband or children. Thank you, Clara replied flatly. Lunch was quiet until Harold cleared his throat. This house is too big for one person. Don't you think it's wasteful? Clara frowned. What are you suggesting? He folded his hands. We could move in. Your mother and I will take the master bedroom. Damon can use the office. Clara's fork froze midair. You can't be serious. Damon leaned back smugly. We're family, Clara. You owe us. Clara's laugh cracked like thunder. Owe you? Like I owed you when I begged for help, and you left me in the rain? Harold's jaw tightened. That was different. No, she said, voice trembling. It wasn't. She stood, shaking but steady. Get out. Evelyn tried to smile. You're being emotional, dear. We just want to help.
Get out.
They left with stiff backs and forced smiles, but something in Harold's eyes warned her. It wasn't over. 3 weeks later, Clara and Ryan drove to Chicago for a design conference.
The
second morning, her phone buzzed. Margaret, Grandma Lillian's old neighbor, texted, There are people at your house, carrying boxes inside. Clara's chest went cold. She opened the Ring app. The video showed Harold at the back door, prying the lock open with a tool. Evelyn stood behind him. Damon carried suitcases. Clara's hands trembled, but her voice didn't. She called Damon. What are you doing? We're moving in, he said. This is a family home. You're alone. No husband, no kids, you don't need it. You broke in, she shouted. We have every right, Damon sneered. Try to stop us, and we'll contest Grandma's will. Clara's jaw tightened. Try me. She and Ryan drove 4 hours straight back home. When they pulled up, her house looked wrong. Curtains drawn, lights on, her parents' cars in the driveway. Inside, her photos were gone, replaced with theirs. Her clothes shoved into boxes. Harold stood calmly in the hallway. "You weren't supposed to be back yet," he said. "It's done." "Is it?" she asked quietly. "We're taking this house. You can't stop us." "We'll see about that," Clara whispered. She smiled once, steady and sure, and reached for her phone. "One call," she said softly. The dispatcher's voice came through. "What's your emergency?" "My family broke into my house," Clara replied. "And I have video proof." Within 20 minutes, police lights flashed across the wet pavement. Harold greeted the officers at the door. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. "We're her family." Clara stepped forward, holding out her phone. "Family doesn't use a crowbar," she said, showing the footage. Harold prying the lock, Damon hauling boxes, Evelyn stepping inside. The officers' faces hardened. "You have 30 minutes to pack," one said. "If you're not gone by then, you'll be arrested for breaking and entering." Evelyn's eyes welled up. "We have nowhere to go." Clara's voice didn't waver. "That's not my problem." The house buzzed with panic. Boxes crashed. Clothes scattered. Damon cursed under his breath. Harold kept repeating, "We built this family." Clara stood silent by the door, rain tapping softly against the roof. The same sound from that night years ago when they shut her out. When the last box hit the porch, an officer handed her a report number. "You did the right thing, ma'am." When the door finally closed, the house was quiet again. Hers again. She exhaled, slow and trembling. The walls still bore their fingerprints, the floors their scuff marks, but the silence was hers. Later, the police confirmed charges against Harold and Damon: breaking and entering, trespassing. They both pled guilty and received probation. The restraining order kept them 500 feet away. Justice didn't roar, it whispered. In that silence, peace bloomed. Weeks turned to months. The garden revived itself, wild and bright. Ryan built a wooden swing under Lillian's old oak tree. Clara spent mornings working from the porch and evenings watching the sunset with a cup of tea. She still heard the echo of old pain sometimes, but it no longer owned her. One evening, while Ryan cooked dinner, Clara's phone rang. The number was unknown. She hesitated before answering. "Clara," came the voice, fragile, trembling. "It's your mother." Evelyn sounded older, smaller. "I heard you got married, and that you're expecting." Clara's throat tightened. "Yes. I just wanted to say, I'm proud of you," Evelyn whispered. For a long moment, Clara said nothing. Then she replied softly, "Thank you." When the call ended, she set the phone down and looked out the window. The same rain that once drenched her when she begged for shelter now fell gently over her roses. Each drop glowed in the porch light, soft and forgiving. Clara stepped outside, barefoot on the damp grass. The wind rustled through the oak leaves above her, the same tree her grandmother once planted with her own hands. "You were right, Grandma," she whispered. "Freedom isn't loneliness." Behind her, laughter drifted from the kitchen where Ryan hummed to himself. Ahead of her, the garden swayed under the rain, alive and bright. And for the first time, Clara truly believed it. She was home.